What is the number one thing that 2020 has taught me? Look, I'm not going to tease this out. I'm just going to cut to the chase. 2020 taught me that you can change. You might be thinking that's silly, that's stupid, that's small, that's insignificant, that's pointless. Just stay with me for a second and I'll explain. 2 years ago, I lost a job because I was unable to work well on my own at home by myself. I didn't lose the job, I was fired. It was humiliating, it was embarrassing. I was ashamed of just my inability to stay disciplined and stop procrastinating and just get my stuff done. So I got another job and I've been working that job. Well, this last March comes the order that we're to stay at home if we can, and so our office is shut down. And thank goodness, thank God that I was able to keep my job, that I was able to do it from home, but there's a real dread there. There was an absolute shadow hanging over me, thinking, I lost my last job because I was unable to work at home on my own. Now, this job depends completely on me, but I don't know what I'm going to do. 2 weeks in, and I'm in the same situation that I have been before. One particular day, 4 p.m. rolled around, and I had done nothing. I had completed none of the tasks that I had set out for me to complete, and if you are a procrastinator, which I think many of us are, you know that panic moment where you feel like, oh my gosh, I've got to do something. And so I started getting into gear and started trying to knock some things out quickly before the end of the day. I listen to books, audiobooks, I listen to Overdrive, and so I was downloading books, and I listen exclusively to fiction. I read exclusively fiction, I write fiction, but I found a nonfiction book as I'm just randomly scrolling through on this day that I had completed nothing, and it was entitled The Now Habit. It was this book, and it was a strategic program for overcoming habits of procrastination. I figured I had nothing to lose. I literally have nothing to lose. I have battled procrastination my entire life. And I'm not exaggerating, I'm not embellishing. I know that in first grade there were projects that I waited until the last second and somehow I was able to get done with tears in the last hours, midnight, my parents' chagrin. But think about first grade projects. Think about leaf projects. So this is something that I have dealt with my entire life, and here I am right now as I'm making this video, 34 years old, and so in March I'm thinking, oh my gosh, here I am again. I have hated this part about me. I've hated this aspect of my life, and I felt embarrassed by it, ashamed, like why can't I get my act together? And it's not for lack of trying, it's not for lack of passion or lack of motivation, because I absolutely hate it and wanted to quit it. And so I had just ingrained in my thought process, there's nothing I can do. And so going into this moment of working at home and leaving the office, which for me was kind of, that's my place for positive peer pressure to get work done. For me, there was just this massive sense of hopelessness. This hopelessness that something I cannot stand, there's nothing I can do about it. This is just who I am. I procrastinate, and I'm just a constant procrastinator, and it's never going to change. So I started reading this book, and this video, this message is not about procrastination. It's not about this book of The Now Habit. What it is this idea that I learned something so valuable that I didn't think was possible. Here was this habit that I had that I could not shake for anything. And as I start listening to The Now Habit, I had literal tears at times because it was describing everything that I felt my entire life. And it starts getting at these underlying issues, that procrastination was simply a symptom, and that there was actually things below the surface that was getting at why I put things off. And I started to understand things about myself that I didn't even know. I learned that I'm a perfectionist. And I would have sworn for 33 years up to that point that I was the exact opposite of a perfectionist. Because I go through the motions all the time. I learned that a lot of times I give minimal effort because then you can only judge me by my least effort. You can't judge me by my best effort. And I learned that I stay up too late because I'm really procrastinating going to sleep, because then I have to get up the next morning and work. So all these things I learned, and it felt like my world started to fall into place. I know that every single one of us is struggling with something in our lives, something that's within ourselves, not something that's outside of our control, outside of our circumstances, but it's part of us, and we can't stand it. It's something that we know is a massive weakness, or something that is devastating to our family life or our work life or whatever it is. And a lot of us have this feeling of hopelessness. I had this feeling of hopelessness. Nothing's ever going to change. The lesson that 2020 taught me was that you can change. You're not beyond fixing. You're not hopeless. There is hope. My procrastination is not fixed. I have not solved the issue, but I have learned how to start coping with it, how to start living through it, how to start living with it, how to recognize symptoms, how to recognize those moments where I'm procrastinating so I can stave off the larger consequences of that. I have learned that I can change this, that this doesn't have to stay this way. Now, I've got 34 years of working hard at procrastinating. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 1 year. It's going to take a while. But I now have hope. I see a light at the end of the tunnel. And 2020 has been a bad year for a lot of us. So my hope and prayer for you is that 2021 is that you will see things that can change in your life, that you will search for learning, for education, not to become this powerful master of your life, but realizing that each and every moment is a way that we can start to transform how we live and how we interact with one another. And I was so against these self-help books, and I think there's a lot of crap out there, let's be honest. But I think there's also a lot of really good resources out there that I had never really looked into. I had never really searched after, and 2020 really helped me start down that path about bettering myself and learning how to better myself, and what ways are productive and what ways are not. As a Christian, I believe there is a God who made each and every one of you and loves you more than you could possibly imagine. We have no idea what 2021 is going to bring. So my message is this: I hope that 2021 is a year of growth and learning and change.